welcome to ETland. Today we are going to look at the RG28xx, and this is my second embryonic device. I gotta say I actually like it a lot better than that of the RG35xxh, and we'll talk about that later. But first of all, we will take a good look at it first. This is not sponsored by anyone, but I'm going to put an affiliated link down below in the description. If you want to support my channel, you can use the link down below and it will be very appreciated. You know, I'm actually madly in love with Steam Deck right now, but this one is actually living in my bag. I mean, the smaller bag I have. If I don't bring my Steam Deck, it is going to be with me. In terms of unboxing, this is rather generic, you know, the white embryonic box, open it and then you have your device inside. It is wrapped inside a plastic bag with that foam that is going to protect the face of the device. And here it is, you know, it is quite small and the buttons are quite clicky. I would say the buttons are softer than that of the RG35xxh, but a little bit harder than that of Miyoo Mini Plus. And I personally like that touching, so I don't think that would be a problem. In terms of the glass here, it is popping up a little bit, and currently I cannot find any screen protector for that, so I am a little bit scared, and there is no screen protector coming with that box. Hope I can find a screen protector for it sooner. And now I would like to look at the back and the I/Os of this device. Obviously we are going to have the L1 R1 and L2 R2 buttons at the back only. However, there's one thing that you may notice. When you shake it, you can hear some rattling sound, and I don't think that is something that everyone would like it, but that doesn't affect any of the functionality. At the bottom, we have two different SD card slots, which on the left hand side from the face, this one is for the system, and on the right hand side, that is for your own storage. You don't necessarily need it. At the side, we have the volume buttons, and here we go back to the front. We can see that at another side, we have the reset button as well as the power button. At the top we have the menu button, the mini HDMI as well as the USB-C port. Last but not least, we have an earphone jack at the bottom. So personally, I have three criteria to choose this kind of low-end devices. First, it gotta be small. Second, I want it to be able to play PSP, and third, it has to be good looking. And this device here passes all three of the criteria. So here is the size comparison. I'm sorry to be a little bit messy here because she just came over and wanted to bother me for the filming. But anyways, we can do a size comparison with her. First of all, here is the device. Almost a head. The size is almost as the same as her head, I guess. So if you compare to her body, is like 1 device, 2, 3, 3.5. So the length is 3.5 of my cat. Anyways, to just do a real comparison, this is my 2DS LL. And this is the lavender color, which is my favorite. If you really compare them side to side, you can see that the purple is very different. This one is more red and this one is paler and a little bit more blue. And if you compare them, you can see that it is significantly smaller. So because the design of the RG28xx is quite similar to an NDS, if you look at it, it is just a little bit smaller, but it looks quite similar. However, we do not have this color in 2DS, and if you make a comparison to the size of a Wonderswan, it is actually quite similar. So you see the length is almost the same, and the screen size is almost the same too. So I can say that actually playing Wonderswans on this RG28xx is wonderful because it is so much similar. And for most of the time I am playing Game Boy Advance, and that's the system that I love the most. But some of the time I would play PSP on it. I'm not going to say that you should buy it for PSP because it is not going to perform perfectly, right? But otherwise, if you are doing some puzzle games or some RPGs on it, it is actually going to work pretty well. And because of it being able to play PSP game, I actually prefer this one than playing on my Miyoo Mini Plus, because it was a great device. It is a great device. It's just some of the games that I prefer to play on PSP, and since this is also a super small device, it makes more sense for me to bring it with me than the Miyoo Mini Plus because of PSP availability. But you may ask, well, how about the RG28xx, because it also plays PSP? You can see that it is significantly smaller than this one. And given that the price of the RG28xx is even cheaper than this one, it actually seems to be a better deal to get this one than this one, because in terms of the PSP performance, both of them are not going to be perfect anyway. It is very limited to the 2D games and those games that are easier to play. So I would say if you have to choose, I would prefer this one than the RG35xxh. And of course, when we compare it to the beloved Miyoo Mini Plus, it is a little bit longer, but also smaller if you compare to the width of it. Both devices are very portable, of course. So if you want to do another comparison, we can take a look at the Retro Pocket 4 Plus. See, this is a lot smaller than that. If you take a look at the buttons, the Miyoo Mini Plus is even softer. It's not like the RG29xx is hard, but when you compare it, it's going to be a lot harder. But it's okay. I mean, I'm okay with it. It is even softer than that of the RG35xx. So I think this is like right in the right way of the hardness. But maybe someone who are very interested into like fighting games, I don't know, maybe you'll prefer this one instead, but I'm good. I mean, look at them. They look so great all together. Before I move on to the functionality or performance of this device, I want to say that this is on firmware version 1.0.4, which is very important because only using this firmware can allow us to play NDS. And there are some other updates. For example, the PSP emulator is now not using the RetroArch, which is coming from the factory when I unbox it. But now we are using a standalone PPSSPP, which gives us more easy access to all the options, and it is a lot easier and better for the performance, and it fixes the volume problem with PSP emulation. So this is a good change, and if your device is not on 1.0.4, I strongly suggest you to update it because there are many good changes. For example, here you can look at my NDS performance. It is great. I mean, this device do not have the joystick with it, so we have to use the D-pad instead. So if you want to use the D-pad to navigate as a pen, you have to press the power button in order to shift the functionality, but then you will lose the function of D-pad, so you have to switch back and forth. So never try those games that require you to use the touch screen, because that is not going to be good anyway. But for example, here I am playing Digimon Story Lost Evolution, and this game just worked perfectly fine because first of all, it is a pixel based game. It is not going to need a lot of rendering, and for most of the time it is using one of the screen only. And you know, like occasionally you may need the top screen, but for most of the time you don't, and you can swap between the screen using the L2 button, and if you press the R2 button, it will let you to change the orientation of the screen. Since the screen size of the RG28xx is very similar to that of the NDS, it looks almost pixel perfect. And if you are willing to make some changes, your 3D games on NDS is going to look very nice. So if you need this configuration, you can pause the screen and I'm going to show you the outcome. This is Dragon Quest Monster Joker, and for most of the time you just need one screen. So if you are just using the top screen, it looks really awesome, and I think it is also a good thing that you can play NDS to this extent. I mean, if it has one joystick, like we can map it as a pen, or it has a touchscreen, then it would be a lot better. But here you can see that the performance is not bad at all. So I would consider that this is very playable and enjoyable. It's just not perfect, but you know, it's playable. And I would say it will be rather enjoyable if you are more JRPG focused, because most of the JRPG, they are going to use the D-pad for control, and most of them do not require you to use the pen or touchscreen. However, if you are into N64, this may not be the device for you. For most of the game, it's probably going to run, and some of it requires the joystick, and you can still use the power button to emulate it, but it is not the best experience. And you can see I do not get any sound for this game, and I even got into this black screen and I can go nowhere. So not every game is going to load up, and not every game is going to work. Not as good as, you know, like NDS, you can just load up a game and it will run, although there are some physical limitations, but you can still run NES game, but not for N64. So I would not suggest you to do so. I mean, if you are lucky enough, you can still get some games to run. For example, this one here, it works, but I would rather say N64 is a hit and miss. PSP, on the other hand, as I already mentioned, most of the 2D games and those games that are not graphically heavy are going to run. For example, my favorite game here, No Hero Allowed 3D, it is running fine. And you know, I am using the settings to set it to 2x resolution. So it can be a little bit laggish if you want to say. You can change the resolution to 1x, but I just want it to look better. I'm using frame skip in 2 frames, so that's my settings, and I personally think it works well for me. But you don't want to turn on those like settings at the bottom that these two here. You don't want to skip the GPU readbacks and the buffer effect, or otherwise you will get that same graphical issues that I just did. So for the record, most of the games I played runs well. However, there are some glitches and some graphical issues that we are going to run into right after this screen. So just a second. You can see that on the top there are some graphical issues. It looks weird, and here as well. So these are minor issues that I also ran into on my RG28xx. So that's why I say that their performance is just pretty much the same, because they are giving me the same things. I'm running 2x resolution on my RG35xx2, and you know, same framescape, 2x resolution, same kind of error, same kind of performance. So theoretically, I think the 35xx is going to be a little bit better, but in reality, I just don't see that much of the difference. And I would say, since the RG28xx is even smaller, and for most of the games that I play on PSP as well do not require that joystick, I would rather prefer using the RG28xx for PSP, emulation, rather than the 35xx. So this is a little bit weird because I thought I would need that joystick, but eventually I just realized that for most of the games I care, I really don't use that joystick, so it's okay for me. But if you need that joystick, then it could be a problem. But anyways, if you need those joysticks, probably those are more demanding games, and you're not going to run it smoothly on this device anyway. So it is up to you on how to think about that, but I would say this one is making more sense. And speaking of another system that I care a lot, Wonderswan color, this is looking very good. As I showed you earlier, this is very similar to the screen and the size of the Wonderswan color, and it just look great. I mean, especially when the screen size and the whole device is small like that, it really brings me the nostalgia of my childhood, and I just really enjoy this kind of feelings. It feels like a device that I really wanted when I was small, but it just didn't exist. One thing to note is that I changed the ratio to full screen, which is stretched a little bit, but you probably couldn't notice it. And I also disabled the overlay because I don't think I need it when I'm using the full screen mode. But anyways, it just looks like how it is supposed to be on a Wonderswan, just, a lot brighter and more colorful if you know about how the Wonderswan looked like originally. So I think this is a good device for Wonderswan if you are into this system as well. And of course, for Game Boy Advance as well, I changed it to full screen mode. I think it looks better without the bezels, and it just doesn't look like it is stretched that much. I would say the D-pad is a little bit difficult to do the diagonals. It's not like it's impossible, but when I play Rockman here, it is a little bit difficult to articulate, and I think it is a learning curve, and it does take a little bit time to learn. It is not that bad, but if you are really someone who would care about the diagonals and stuff, you may not like it. PlayStation is set to be full screen by default. I mean, if you look at the aspect ratio, it should be in full screen mode. I'm not sure if I'm capturing the screen perfectly on my camera, but it actually looks very good. So I would say it is very enjoyable to play PlayStation on this device as well. Again, I just love how small but powerful it is. I mean, it could do a little bit better given the, the technologies nowadays we have, but it is a cheap device anyway, so I'm quite satisfied by its performance based on its price range. And I can totally expect someone commenting in the comment section saying that, oh, this is definitely trash because like I'm not benchmarking with a demanding game that is going to make the device suffer. I'm just playing something that is not essential and silly and stuff like that. But I don't care because this is what I'm interested in, and I would only play the games I'm interested. So you can find other channels that can entertain that need of yours, but I would say this is a device that satisfies my needs very much, and I appreciate it a lot. Once again, this is a cheap device. I mean, it is performing accordingly to its price range, but if anyone is expecting any device that could perform better and run every system on that device, that would be a Steam Deck, and I would say just go get a Steam Deck. It is on sale for 15% off, and it is around $300. I don't see any reason of buying any other devices other than the Steam Deck if it is affordable to you and if you don't mind it is big. But that's also exactly why I need this device, because sometimes I just need to kill the time for like 5 minutes or so. So I don't need something that performs like super good, because I just need to kill that 5 minutes and that's it. So what I need is something that I can easily access. I can play and put it onto sleep with one button, small enough to put in my small bag. So that's why I really enjoy it. Now we are looking at some gameplay on SNES, and again, I'm not benchmarking it. I'm not like pushing it to the most difficult things. I just show you what I'm enjoying and what I like. And as far as you can see, since it is a square kind of aspect ratio of the SNES, you are going to have some bezels, and of course it is already pre-configured for you with those bezels. It doesn't look perfectly good, but I mean, it works, but it is it's a little bit odd work, but I would say it's okay, but if you don't prefer those overlays, you can always turn it off in RetroArch so that you can get the black bars and not the console-like kind of background. On the other hand, Game Boy Color is looking super sick on this device. Since it is small enough, it really looks like what it's supposed to be, and with those bezels, I mean, it really looks like we are playing on a Game Boy Color. I know some of you want those square devices to play this kind of square systems, but I don't know, it really looks great with those bezels here. Although SNES is not looking that great, but for Game Boy Color, I would prefer playing it with this bezel than playing on devices like RG Cube, because it looks more original to me. And I don't know, it is obviously a personal choice, but I really enjoy Game Boy Color here, which I didn't expect myself to be enjoying it that much, but yes, I do enjoy it a lot. Heading to the last part of this video, I'm going to talk about some of the function that I love but not about gaming. First of all, this music player look very sick here. Although I don't think we have got any playlist function here, but if you are okay with playing songs in random or just creating a playlist based on that folder, it is completely fine, and since we have that headphone jack, we will not have much problem with the sound. I don't know if you have ever encountered this problem. Maybe you don't because you're using Spotify or any other streaming services. But I used to store a lot of songs on my iPod, and I can't anymore because nowadays we don't have the SD card slot on our phone. But I mean, we have SD card slots here and we can store it on this device so that we don't have to store it on our phone anymore, and that is actually a very good function. On the other hand, I want to look at the video player here, and I gotta say this device is a perfect device to play all those old school animations, Digimon, whatever, Pokemon. You know, all those things were in 4x3 back in the old days, and it just looked so great on this device. And since this is so pocketable, you know, you can just use it and play it a little bit and pause it and put it back into your bag when you really want to revisit the old animations. Of course, you can use your phone to do whatever you want. However, since the aspect ratios of the phones nowadays are so weird, there will be a large black bars at the sides, and this is not going to look as good as on this kind of devices. And on the other hand, you may say, oh, how about RG28xx or like Miyoo Mini Plus or Miyoo Mini itself? RG28xx is going to perform the same after updating the OS, but you'll have to update the OS, of course. However, Onion OS on the Miyoo Mini Plus or Miyoo Mini is actually not performing as good in terms of video playing. FF Player on Onion OS does not allow you to use subfolder, and you can see these, I cannot exit, and I'm not even playing anything. So to sum up the whole experience, I would say this is a very satisfying device to me, and I strongly recommend it even over the RG28xx and the Miyoo Mini Plus. But of course, it really depends on your personal choices and your preferences. Once again, it really checks all my 3 criteria for low-end devices. It is small, it is good looking, and it is powerful enough to play PSP. And yes, recently I was on an assignment and I just snap it into my bag, and during my waiting time between jobs, I just play it for 5 minutes and I go to the next job. To be honest, I spend 90% of my playtime on Steam Deck, and I just use my RG28xx when I know that the waiting time on the street or somewhere is going to be very limited. But still, it is really nice to have a device that is that small but powerful enough to bring with you when you don't have the luxury to bring your Steam Deck with you. And yes, since me and hubby are replaying Monster Hunter World on Steam, so he's having my ROG Ally and I'm on Steam Deck. That's pretty much about this video, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!